Everywhere you look online, people talk about becoming a millionaire. Articles, tweets, videos, they all use this word, whether it's 8 tips from a millionaire or millionaires do this. And the reason why they do it is because it gets clicks. Millionaire is this word that we've used that we associate with people who have been successful. But here's the truth. Becoming a millionaire really shouldn't be your primary goal when it comes to investing. Being able to replace your income from your 9-to-5 job should be. On today's Build, Invest, Live podcast, we're going to bust through the millionaire myths, show you why net worth sometimes isn't all that it's cracked up to be, and talk about why focusing on generating income should be your primary goal at the start. So let's get into it. The word millionaire is just extremely overused online today. And the reason for that is because it works. It gets the engagement that content creators want. It gets people to click on their article or click on their video. It gets people to watch or to read, and it gets people to comment. And whether that's people who, want to achieve millionaire status as a sign of progression in their life, who are excited about it, or just people who want to comment to complain about everything and, millionaires are the scum of the earth that day for whatever reason. But the reason why I don't like the fact that it's overused is I think millionaire status is this thing that can turn off people, especially when they're starting to learn about money or starting to learn about investing. And I cringe a little bit every time I see this type of content on Twitter where you have somebody saying, hey, if you just invested $500 every month for 30 years, you'll be a millionaire. And I get what they're trying to say. They're talking about, historical stock market returns. And, the idea I think behind that content is that anyone can be a millionaire. You don't need a lottery ticket, right? Just consistent investing over time will get you there. It doesn't have to be difficult. And while I agree with the premise of what they're trying to do, the execution to me is off. Because here's the thing. How many people out there, you, me, or anyone, have done something for 30 straight years? In some cases, the people creating this content aren't even 30 years old. So, they haven't even, breathed air for 30 straight years, let alone invested $500 a month. And so the reason why I don't like that type of content is that it acts like the benefit of investing is 30 years away, right? And so when you're just starting out, that's daunting. Like if you're starting at zero and you're like, hey, if I just do this one thing every month for 30 straight years, which I've never done before, then I'll become a millionaire. Like that's a crappy benefit to pitch. It's just not something that is realistic, especially when you look at the world that we live in today. We live in a world where everything is at our fingertips, instant gratification, and I'm not saying that that's good. Obviously, you need to have some patience and a long-term mindset when you invest, but I just think there's better ways. I think there's better ways than telling someone, hey, do this thing that's really hard for 30 years and then you'll get some benefit. I think that's a crappy way to frame it. And that's why people don't do the long-term investing thing. And a lot of times they jump towards that next hot thing, whether that's GameStop, crypto, Tesla when it was in its heyday, right? People trying to catch that lottery ticket because they're trying to get to that status quickly, as opposed to being able to find ways to see progress over time and build a long-term portfolio. And this is something that happens in our own lives. I mean, I've had people in my lives ask me, hey, I want to be able to triple my money in 6 months. How can I do that? What should I invest in? And that is a very difficult, if not impossible question to answer, because the only way to really do that is to take on enormous amounts of risks and probably do things that people haven't built up the skill set to do, whether that's trading or options or whatever. And even then, it's very hard to do, right, in a reliable way. Whereas if someone came up to me and said, hey, how can I triple my money over the next 10 years? Well, that's a little bit easier to do. There's obviously no guarantee of how the market's going to perform in any given year or string of years, but being able to achieve 11.5% return every year for 10 years to triple it, pretty sure that's the percentage it takes to triple something. If not, then I apologize, that's wrong. But that is actually doable. Right? You can go back and find stocks that have easily hit that over the last 10 years. And so it's all about understanding what your time frame is. So if you don't do anything and then just really want to flip things at the end, it's going to be very difficult. Whereas if you take a slower approach, it's very easy to triple your money in 10 years, or relatively easy, a lot easier than 6 months. But people don't have the patience to do that. So how do we build that patience within ourselves? because it's tough. It's human nature, right? Especially now that we're online and we have social media, we see other people's successes and we want that for ourselves, right? We start comparing and we say, wow, that person's already a millionaire and they're younger than me, so I need to do something to get there quickly. And so we look for quick solutions instead of good solutions. And that really, I think, is where a lot of people go wrong. And then when they get burned, then it just turns them off to investing forever or for a long time. And that's hurts them even more because now they're not doing it anymore because they don't believe in it, because they, made a poor decision and got burned, and, now they don't want to look at it anymore. But I think what people don't understand is millionaire status can be a little misleading in terms of what it actually means. When people hear that term, they're like, oh, this person has $1 million in their bank account, or they have $1 million available to them. And a lot of times it really doesn't mean that, because people are talking about millionaire status as it relates to net worth. And net worth is something that people talk about online a lot. I used to focus on it almost completely, and I don't anymore. And I'm going to explain to you why as we go through this example. So I saw an example of somebody who shared their breakdown of their financials after they hit millionaire status. And I'm not going to name names. It has nothing to do with that. I just want to use it as an example to show you what millionaire status means for a lot of people. And this particular person had it broken down like this. They had paid off their house in full, so about $350K of their $1 million net worth was their primary home. They had another $50K in land that they owned. They had basically retirement and brokerage accounts that had stocks in it. Their retirement accounts were about $500,000, and their brokerage account was about $125,000. And so just to be clear, I'm not criticizing this person's finances at all. I think what they've done is really great, and I think a lot of people's breakdown looks like this, and ours did as well for a long time. But it's most of people's net worth is tied up in their primary home and in their retirement accounts. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? That is technically net worth, but that's also money that's not really available to you at a moment's notice. Like your house can be worth, $350K, but it's not like you have access to that money unless you actually get rid of your house and then you need a place to live. And I know people say, oh, you can get a home equity loan, and all that is outside the scope of what we're talking about today. But the point is that if most of your money is tied up in retirement accounts or tied up in your primary home, then it's not necessarily money you have easy access to. Now, there's always exceptions, right? You can take a loan out of your 401k. You can use it for specific stuff like education and buying a home. And again, all those things are kind of outside of what's important in our conversation today. So really, it's about $125,000 of liquid assets in stocks that they've accumulated, which again, I'm not criticizing this person at all. That's great. And that's more than what most people have. But I think it's very different than what people consider kind of millionaire status when they hear that term. They assume a person has $1 million that they can spend, where in this case, it's like a little over 10% of that, right? So when people post things like invest $500 every month for 30 years and you'll be a millionaire, it's just, we're really talking apples and oranges. But I just think that type of content can turn people off because the benefits seem so far away. And if you have someone who's never invested before, they're probably still working up to understand how to get the patience and the long-term mindset to be able to do something consistently over years, right? I don't think the best way to get them started is to say, great, start today, and in 30 years, you're going to have something that you're excited about. Like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So what we're going to break down today is what I think is the best way for people who are just getting started in investing to get started, see benefits in a way that'll make you want to do it even more and make you want to invest more of your money as you go. And that's basically this idea that instead of focusing on net worth and millionaire status, it's focusing on generating income that actually takes care of some of your monthly bills. And we're going to break down how exactly to do that right now. So when you start investing in stocks that pay dividends, you will start to see the benefit of investing early on. It doesn't always have to just be with price appreciation of basically the stock going up. It can be these companies that are good companies actually paying you money just to own their shares, right? That is basically dividends in a nutshell. And when you start to connect that dividend income that you're getting with the bills that you have to pay every month, it can really be a great way to get a tangible benefit from investing early on, even when you're just starting out. And let me break down an example of how that would work. So instead of focusing on how you can invest $500 every month for 30 years to be a millionaire, what if you just focused on being able to replace one of your monthly bills with investment income? And let's just take Netflix as an example. Most people have a Netflix account, and let's say it costs about $20 a month. It's about $240 a year that you're paying. Well, you have a stock like Income Realty. Its stock ticker is O, and it's a very well-known, dividend stock. It's currently paying about a 5% dividend yield. They pay their dividends monthly, which makes it easy for this example to calculate. And they've paid and increased their dividend for over 25 straight years, which means that they're a dividend aristocrat, which, if you don't know what that means, in a nutshell, it means that they're a reliable dividend payer that has not only paid, but increased their dividend every year for the past 25 years. So you would assume that that makes it more likely that they'll continue to do that in the future. So if we do the math, at a 5% dividend yield, you'd need about $4,800 worth of Income Realty stock. And right now it's trading a little bit over $61. So you need about 80 shares of their stock based on where it's trading today. So if you took that same $500 a month, in about 10 months, you'll have enough invested that basically you'll never have to pay your Netflix bill again, right? And I know you're probably saying, wait a minute, in 10 months, I would have paid, almost $5,000 or about $5,000, and I'm only going to get $20 a month back. But you have to understand, that dividend payment is going to consistently be there. Plus, you still own the shares of Income Realty stock, which could also go up and appreciate over time. But the idea is that, yes, the return is minimal compared to other things that you see online, but you don't have to do anything. You literally just bought the stock over a 10-month period, and you sit and wait, and they pay you every month. And they're literally paying one of your bills off. Plus, Income Realty's dividend growth rate's about 4%, which isn't huge. It's not a big dividend growth stock, but it's about at the rate of normal inflation. So that means that your dividend payments that are paying your Netflix bill should continue to grow at about the rate of inflation over, years. With the idea being that it could probably pay your Netflix bill forever, in theory, assuming that it continues, right? And that's something you can accomplish in 10 months. So after 10 months, you take a look at your monthly bills again. You find the next one that you want to target, and you buy more shares, whether that's of Income Realty or of another dividend stock that you like. It doesn't matter. But the point is that you're building an income snowball. It's kind of like a debt snowball, but the idea is that you want to cover your cheapest bill every month. Once you cover that with income or with investment income, then go to the next one and buy shares to cover that with investment income. With the idea being that the more bills that you see go away that you have to pay or that you have to go to work to pay for, all of a sudden, that tangible benefit of what investing can do for you is obvious. And you're seeing it every single month in the amount of bills that you don't have to work for to pay. It's pretty awesome stuff. It's just an easy way for people to get excited about investing and to see the benefits of ownership, right? In this case, we're talking about stocks, but it can just be ownership in general because that's how you actually build wealth, right? Whether that's ownership in real estate, ownership in a business, or in this case, ownership in a public company, in a public business that gives you income for basically doing nothing but buying the shares. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that Income Realty is the best dividend stock to invest in. It's just an example that we use because it pays monthly. It's at a 5% dividend yield right now, so it's easy for the calculation. And, it's a very popular dividend stock, but there's a lot of other considerations that you have out there, long-term price appreciation, the tax implications of qualified to non-qualified dividends. But again, all that are details that you can learn over time. The important thing is to get started. And what's great about this method is that you can see benefits not in 30 years, but in about 10 months when your investment income's already paying one of your bills. And that's where I think, investing in dividend companies is really underrated because you see a lot of people talk about, it's not about dividend yield, it's about total return and, net worth and all that. And I get it. If your timeline is, you know what, I'm just going to keep investing and I'm not going to look at it for 30 years, then that's okay. But I think if you're at that point to where you're really struggling to understand the benefit, you want to be able to see tangible benefit early, then dividends do a great job of that because you can attach that very tangible dividend payment when you know it's going to come every quarter or every month, depending on how the company pays. And you can apply that to your monthly bills to where you and your family are getting benefit like right off the bat. And it's money that you don't have to do anything. It's passive income. It's income that makes you less dependent on your 9-to-5 job. And It's this, snowball method that really hits that psychological part of our brain. And I think that when it comes to money, that is the hardest part. It's the mental part, right? Like, it's easy to learn about index funds and that they return 10% a year. Like, that takes a 10-second Google search and maybe 5 minutes of reading, right? The hard part is the mental part of getting in our own way, of not wanting to risk our money, of not being confident enough to know where to put our money. And so when it starts to give you, benefit back quickly, it just builds our confidence, and it shows that if we keep doing this, then we're going to keep making progress on having income that's not tied to us having to go to a job every day. And that is a powerful, powerful message. And so look, if you're struggling to find the motivation to start investing, I highly recommend this method of just picking one of your monthly bills and then starting to buy a dividend stock that helps you pay off that one monthly bill, and just start there. And then let's see where it goes. And if you want another kind of added tip of how to get you excited about it, pick a company that pays a dividend that you really love and use in your personal life. And I've done this before. Actually, I still do this at times. Maybe you love drinking Coca-Cola, or you love to take your kids to McDonald's, or you only use Johnson & Johnson products for your baby in the bath, right? Pick a company that you like and that you use in your personal life, and choose that as your first investment, right? It doesn't have to be perfect. This isn't about finding the best investment that ever lived. It's about being able to build up habits within yourself to consistently invest. And if that means that you need to find a company that you really love in your personal life and say, hey, I'm invested in them, I love their product, that's great. Do that, and just take a company that you really like that pays a dividend and buy enough shares to be able to pay off one of your bills in your monthly bill set. And I think you'll be amazed at what that gives you in terms of confidence, and how much motivation and inspiration it'll give you to keep going, to knock out even more of those monthly bills with more shares, whether it's of that company or of another one. People focus so much on trying to find the absolute best investment, when really consistently investing over time is how you build and keep wealth over the long term. Like, it doesn't have to be perfect to start, but you do have to start. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Build, Invest, Live podcast. Financial independence is true freedom, so keep building and stacking those wins, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.